10 millennia ago in the middle of the North African desert, a tribe was awoken by the arrival of a pyramid-shaped UFO. A brave young warrior who was unafraid of the foreign lights was abducted and never seen from again. In 1928 at a dig outside of Giza, Egypt, Professor Langford and his team of archaeologists unearthed a strange ring-shaped object made of minerals not of this earth, as well as a fossil in the shape of Egyptian gods. His daughter Catherine continued his research into the present, and is currently attending a presentation by a linguistics expert named Dr. Daniel Jackson, whose theory that the pharaohs didn't build the Great Pyramid is ill-received by the suits attending. She decides to wait for him outside, where she offers him a job to help with translating some hieroglyphics. Despite getting a strange feeling, Daniel has just been evicted from his home and is carrying around everything he owns, so he accepts the job. She takes Dan to a secret military base in Creek Mountain, Colorado, where Lieutenant Kowalski introduces him to two linguists named Shore and Myers, who have already been attempting to decipher the mysterious stones found with the ring in Giza. Daniel corrects Myers' translation of the text, which reads that the sun god Ra is sealed and buried for all time in his Stargate. In a quaint suburban neighborhood, two Air Force officers go to the house of a colonel to inform him that he has been reactivated for duty. Jack O'Neill suffers depression after his son got a hold of his gun and accidentally shot himself. He walks into Creek Mountain looking like a new man, and orders Kowalski that no information be passed between anyone that isn't military. When Catherine questions Jack as to why he was sent in after she was promised complete autonomy, he says that it's in case she succeeds. 2 weeks of staring at the abstract symbols on the Stargate's cover stones, Daniel notices that they coincide with constellations. He meets with the man in charge, General West, who finds it hard to believe that he has cracked in 14 days what's taken them 2 years. Daniel explains that the 7 symbols form an address, as 6 points are needed to find a location in a 3-dimensional space, with the 7th needed as the access point. Just then the team unanimously agreed to reveal to Dan the 7th point, a Stargate to another world. The team programmed the 7th symbol onto the cartouche by rotating the outer ring, causing the Stargate to open for the first time in their years of study. They send in a probe and track its location to the other side of the known universe, but the machine suddenly shuts itself down. Readings from the probe before losing contact indicate that the other side offers the same temperature as Earth, and most importantly oxygen. West has hired Jack to lead a team into the gate against any threats they may encounter, while Daniel volunteers to join them in order to help translate the coordinates from the other side and get them back. Catherine gives Daniel the amulet she found at the dig as a child to take with him, claiming that it has given her luck over the years, while Jack and 5 of his men join Kowalski and Dan on the platform. One by one they step through the entrance of the Stargate and are teleported across the universe to another planet. After recovering from the trip, they exit an ancient structure with modern details, and discover that they are on a desert world called Abydos with a pyramid of its own, confirming Daniel's theories of them being made by visitors. Jack demands Dan get the gate back open, but he claims that he can't without the corresponding cover stones like on Earth, as there is no way to decipher the correct order of hieroglyphics. Lieutenant Kowalski and Ferretti both get furious at Daniel, assuming that he wanted this to happen, but are under orders from Jack to set up camp and begin a search of the surrounding area. Daniel notices tracks leading to a large domesticated beast of burden called a mastich, but it gets spooked at the soldiers approaching and runs away with Dan tangled in its harness. It drags him all the way to a campsite filled with hundreds of human slaves working at a mine. Daniel, Kowalski, Jack and one of Jack's men, Brown, approach them to try to make contact, but the locals notice the symbol of Ra around Dan's neck and all kneel before him. A young slave named Skara runs away from them in terror, and returns with his father and their leader Kasuf, who they exchange food and drink with as a greeting and are invited into the camp. Ferretti, Freeman, Porro and Riley are told to guard the Stargate, as the other 4 are taken across the desert to a large city made of stone. They reveal in the town center a shrine to Ra, showing that they have mistaken the Earthmen as emissaries of their god. Just then the townspeople begin to seal the gates and the military go on the defensive, but the people are just protecting the town from a sandstorm rolling in, one that the soldiers back at camp have had to flee inside the pyramid to avoid. Kowalski apologizes for the misunderstanding and they stay the night. During a feast for the visitors, Daniel tries to communicate by drawing in the sand, but Kasuf forbids him from any writing and whisks him away from the soldiers to be pampered. He is then presented with a woman named Shuri, and when attempting to send her away he realizes they see it as an insult and she stays. Shuri draws a symbol in the sand that represents Earth, so Daniel has her lead him to an underground temple covered in symbols. Back at the pyramid the 4 men are waiting around making jokes, when a pyramid-shaped spaceship flies overhead and uses the man-made structure beneath it as an anchor to the planet. Before the soldiers can get a single shot off, they are one by one taken out with a bowstaff to the face, leaving only Ferretti, who gets a glimpse of a human hiding as the Egyptian god of death Anubis. He is knocked unconscious and dragged back to its leader, and an advanced sarcophagus slowly opens as Ferretti almost gets a glimpse of the alien Ra, but a Horus guard notices him watching and staffs him in the face. Jack is followed around by Skara, who accepts his gift of a lighter before trying to touch his gun and being scared away. He later finds Skara with his best friend Nabe and has them lead him to the dweeb with long hair and glasses, using a mastage as a sniffer dog to track his scent. They find Dan, who is now speaking the language relatively well as it is derived from Egyptian, and he tells the story of Ra. The alien was slowly dying and wanted to find a way to prolong his life. He discovered Earth and took over the body of a human like a parasite, then created a Stargate to force the humans through a slave labor to mine minerals for his eternal life machine. The humans on Earth revolted against the alien and buried the Stargate, so Ra outlawed all reading and writing on planet Abydos so that no one would ever remember. Daniel finds the combination to return to Earth, but the seventh symbol is worn off. With this bad news, the team leave the town and head back to camp while being followed by the younger townspeople. They get back to find Ra's spaceship still in park, and enter to find no signs of the rest of the team. Suddenly a Horus guard shows up and kills Brown with an energy blast fired from his staff, then incapacitates Kowalski. Jack and Dan make it to the Stargate to find that the nuclear warhead that Jack secretly brought with him to destroy the gate is missing. The Horus guard's leader Anubis drops down from the spaceship in front of them and the two are brought before the alien, who approaches them surrounded by potential host bodies and dressed as an Egyptian god king. As soon as the guards and Ra himself remove their helmets, Jack snatches Anubis's staff and kills a guard before trying to take out the alien. Daniel is killed protecting him while Jack is held back by Ra's human shield and knocked out. He is thrown into a submerged prison with Kowalski, Ferretti and Freeman, while Ra notices his symbol around Daniel's neck and takes his corpse. In response, Ra sends his guards and fighters to open fire upon the town in hopes of instilling fear into them once again, leaving the young townspeople to arrive back to find many of their kin dead. Daniel is resurrected by the sarcophagus, and told by Ra that his race was chosen because they can be so easily repaired, and is also impressed at how far humans on Earth have advanced. He reveals his plan to Dan of sending the warhead back to Earth to destroy what he has created, and that he only resurrected him so that he can kill his friends in front of the slaves, showing his devotion to Ra. An execution is held in front of the pyramid with the entire town being forced to watch, and Daniel is handed a staff to kill his team. The night before, Shuri got a fire burning in Skara and Nabe with the tales Daniel told her of where their people come from, and why they should rise up against the false gods. Suddenly Daniel spins around and fires at the alien and his servants, missing but starting the revolution. The Earthlings disappear into the crowd while the Horus guards fire into it and eventually kill Freeman. With the help of a mastage they escape into the desert to a disappointed-looking Horus, being found later by the surviving rebels and taken to shelter in a cave. The younglings recover the guns, but Jack gets mad at them in fear of their lack of training, confusing the rest of the men as they need all the help they can get. Dan makes Jack confess his covert mission to the rest of his team, and he explains that when they all left with Daniel he was going to stay back to blow the gate, and himself. With the warhead now being sent back to Earth, Jack's new mission is to intercept it before it does. He explains in private to Dan his reason for what he is doing and how he outlived his own child, while Skara continues to try and help. It turns out Shuri was married to Daniel when she was offered to him and he is only just finding out, but consummates it anyway. Back at the pyramid, Ra is angry at his Horus guard, and uses his jewelry to kill one of them for his failure to find the Earthlings. The next morning Daniel notices Skara drawing the symbol that they need to go home, a pyramid with 3 circles representing the planet Abydos. While the slaves are doing their regular duties of mining for their masters, Jack leads an ambush and kills the head Horus guard. Kasuf refuses to go along with the blasphemy, having lost so much already, until Daniel shows him that his gods are nothing more than human. Ra sends the warhead down to the Stargate with some of his guards to wait for a caravan of minerals to arrive, expecting to use it to magnify the explosion 100-fold and destroy Earth completely. Daniel, Jack and Shuri sneak in with a small group of slaves escorting the minerals, then attack the guards when they get inside and a battle ensues. Before the rest of them can join the fight, the pyramid closes, trapping them outside, while Horus fighters exit the structure and begin firing on them. Kowalski leads them back to the caravan where they circle the wagons, but the heroic Nabe is incinerated before he can make it. Inside, Jack uses the Horus leader's staff to kill the remaining guards in the temple, then sets the bomb to blow in 7 minutes, giving Daniel time to use the Stargate. Suddenly Shari is killed by a Horus guard before he is taken out, and as Ra sends Anubis down to deal with things himself, Daniel uses the matter transporter to switch places with him. While Jack fights with Ra's right-hand man, Daniel places Shuri in the sarcophagus to revive her. Not having much success in the fight, Jack uses Anubis's wrist controls to drop the transporter rings down on his head, having seen him use it to activate them earlier. Daniel is waiting on the other side when Ra catches him and attempts to kill him, but he escapes by switching places with Anubis's head. With no other option, Kowalski and the rest of the caravan surrender to the Horus pilots, but Kasuf arrives with hundreds of free people who swarm the pyramid. They succeed in their revolt just like Earth and begin to juggle their god, but Ra sees this victory and attempts to depart Earth on his spaceship. With seconds left on the warhead and Ra having rigged it to not switch off, Jack and Dan simultaneously come up with the idea to use Anubis's body to send it back to him. It Matter rearranges right in front of his face, then rearranges his face's matter, destroying him and his ship. Back down on Abydos, the first military of its kind on the planet salutes Jack, along with the last two of his team. Daniel kisses his wife, and the free people cheer. Ferretti and Kowalski thank Daniel as they take the Stargate back to Earth, and Skara has reinvigorated Jack to live life again. Daniel decides to stay on Abaddon with his new wife and people, while Jack takes the Stargate home. And the movie ends. So you made it. I appreciate your time. I couldn't have done it without you. Tell your mother I said thanks.